Hi guys, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner, and today I just wanted to go over a few things that I have here for the Giles build. So stay tuned and we'll take a look at some of the equipment that we're going to be putting in this plane. Okay guys, so really quick, I wanted to go over a few of the items that I purchased for this aircraft. So we'll start off with the tank here. I bought a 16-ounce Dubro tank. That should give me plenty of flight time on the 35cc. We did buy the conversion kit to convert it to a gasoline tank. It's only $2 for the new stopper for that. And we will be putting using the brass tubes inside here. One of the things that I did want to use though is a filtered clunk. So I bought a ceramic filtered clunk to go in the tank, and that'll be my pickup line down in the back here. So that'll keep a nice clean flow of fuel to the engine. We'll set that off to the side. Now for switches, I bought some heavy duty switches that will allow me to do the charging from the outside. However, I probably won't be using those. And the reason for that is, since I'm doing the 2-cell lithium-ion batteries, this will not allow me to balance charge the batteries inside the plane. Plus, I'd rather take the batteries out to charge them because it's a little bit safer. And then I can plug them into my balance charger separately on a safe surface to get those charged. Now, I've never had an issue with any LiPo batteries or lithium-ion batteries, but I have heard a lot of horror stories with charging those aircraft batteries, and I don't want to risk that in the aircraft. But these two switches, one will be labeled for the ignition, and one will be for the receiver. And I'll have to find a good location to mount these so that they're not exposed to a lot of fuel over a long period of time. Now for control, I'm going to be using my G2 DX8, great radio. I've also modified that radio, and I have installed the Hall effect gimbals from Tyrannus, from FreeSky. They work really great. I did some modifications to those gimbals to be able to operate them on the Spectrum radio. If anybody is interested in that and how I did that, please go ahead and put a comment below, and maybe I'll do a quick video opening it up and showing how I got those gimbals installed. But because we're using that Spectrum radio and we're using a gas engine, I went ahead and I purchased the AR801 0T. So it's the AR8010T. Spectrum receiver. It's an 8-channel receiver, has telemetry, and it allows me to feed back to my radio via the telemetry system a CHT on the engine. So I have the temperature sensor to go around the cylinder. It'll also give me RPM from the ignition module, and also the receiver pack voltage. And give me warnings on that through the radio, which is great. So it's a great little receiver. It's fairly lightweight, and it allows me to put more satellite receivers as well on there. So it's a good little receiver that will work perfectly with the radio that I have. The other thing is you don't need to use a bind plug, which is really cool. Now, it does give you the option to use a bind plug. However, it's not necessary anymore. It has a little button here, which allows you to press the button, turn it on, and it'll go into bind mode. And then you can go ahead and bind your radio to it. So great receiver. It handles up to 9 volts on the input. So we're in the 7.4 volt lithium ion batteries directly with this, with no additional regulators or anything like that. Will work just fine. Now originally I did mention that I bought these Corona servos. There we go. So originally I did buy the Corona digital servos that I was going to be utilizing in this aircraft. They're high torque servos, supposedly put out 20 kilograms per centimeter of torque, and operate up to 7.4 volts, metal geared, but I did a little research on these, and the output power, or speed, I'm sorry, the speed of these servos is only 0.18 to go 60 degrees. It's not extremely fast, but it's not extremely slow either. So they would have been fine on this aircraft to fly IMAC. However, I had to buy some more servos for another project, and I'm ended up going to use these in that project instead. So I set these to the side, and I figured I wanted to go a little bit faster in the servos. I wanted to be able to fly this airplane and have plenty of speed on the servo side and torque. So I went ahead and I went on to Horizon's website, and I found these. These are the Spectrum 6380 high voltage servos. They're metal gear aircraft servos. They put out 160 ounces of torque, and they can handle voltages up to 8.4 volts, which is, again, perfect with the 2-cell lithium ion packs that I have to run this aircraft. So they're, like I said, they're dual ball bearing, they're metal geared, they're coreless, and they operate between 6 and 8.4 volt. And at 8.4 volt, transit speed is only 0.13, so it's slightly faster servo, but they'll work beautifully in this plane. So went ahead and got these. So it'll be one for each aileron, one for each elevator, one for the rudder. The throttle servo, I have a bunch of smaller servos. For instance, I have this 25 kilogram digital servo here from, it's a DS 3225. I got it on Amazon. If it actually puts out 25 kilograms at 8 volt, then, you know, we'll be just fine, especially for a throttle. But all my other control surfaces definitely want to make sure you have a decent servo for control of your aircraft. So that's where these come in. So stay tuned, guys. I'll be right back. Basically, we got the wing mounted to the fuselage now. I did have some issues trying to get everything lined up, but now that everything is lined up, it's looking really nice. I checked both from the wing tips to the tail of the airplane, and from the trailing edge section. Sorry, guys. So from the trailing edge to the tip here of the fuselage, 46 and 46 even. So the wing is now square with the fuselage and mounted. It is still a little bit tight getting in down here, so I'm going to have to maybe take a look at how I might be able to loosen that up a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier. Because once the covering's on, that's going to add a couple probably about a millimeter of extra material here, which is going to make it a little bit harder to get in place. But all in all, it's not bad. So I'll be able to fix that just a little bit with some sanding and get that to fit nicely. But other than that, the wing is mounted nicely. We'll go ahead and mount the tail feathers on here, and we can get a better idea of what this is going to look like now with the wing fully mounted. And make sure everything lines up. That's the main key here, is we want to make sure everything is lining up. So the stab and the wing need to line up evenly. I'm not going to leave these on right now. Well, yeah, we'll leave those on for right now, but once I get to the point where I'm actually aligning everything, we'll go ahead and take those off. And then here you go. You see the stab will fit right inside there. Perfect. So there it is. Everything lines up nice as far as what I can tell on there. So we've now got the wing, and let's do a quick, just a quick down and dirty, and yeah, everything lines, wow, that lines up almost dead on. If you're looking at the top of the, both meet at the same time. So yeah, that's looking really good. Everything seems to be lining up really nicely. So I'm really happy with how that's lining up. So now that we have the fuselage and the wing mated to the aircraft, and we have tail all lines up, we'll be able to move forward with finishing up the wing here. So I need to get that aileron mounted on the left side over there. And then we need to add the pieces of wood and add the extra meat here for the servos to mount to. And again, on that side, we need to add that extra bit inside the trailing edge to make sure that there's enough area for the epoxy to grab onto for the pin hinges. Once we have those done, we're pretty much ready to start working on prepping the fuselage and the wing for the covering. And then we'll be able to move forward and get everything finished up, get the engine running. Yeah, so we'll see how that all works out. But yeah, everything else looks really good. It lines up beautiful. The engine is also drilled out the engine compartment up here under the cowl. So now I can get the muffler on there beautifully. It comes out right where you need it to. I'm going to take a look and see where the needle valves are, because I want to be able to get to the needle valves, and I want to have that drilled out prior to painting everything and getting that all set up ready to go. So, but yeah, everything else is good. So we need to close up the bottom of the belly pan after I do a little bit more sanding and fitting to make sure that fits nicely without being forced. Right now it takes a little bit of force, but not much. We'll get that on there first, finish that, close that area up, and get the sheeting in place. So there's a little bit more work to do on the wing, but we'll get that done next, okay? So, okay guys, so now that I got the panels here cut out, and I got the belly pan formers in there, I had to trim them, the stringers just a little bit, so that way I could line everything up on the fuselage there with the tubes that need to go inside it. So, but the belly pan area is basically, I got to trim this out, which is what I did right here. And we'll sand that, and we'll fit that to the side of the fuselage. And then we'll be able to curl that around to the right area. So we're going to bring this a little closer in here. So we're going to go ahead and sand this by hand. If I can find my sheet of sandpaper here. There it is. I'm going to kind of eyeball where I need to cut this. Mark it. Okay, now that we have that fitting as closely as we can, I'm going to put some glue along this top stringer right here. And we'll get this glued onto this first. And we're going to spray this with a little bit of ammonia. Yep, that's the ammonia. And then we'll just let that dry for a few minutes, let that kind of curl over. And then what we'll do is we'll take some medium CA after I kind of line up where I need this cut. I'm going to take my straight edge right here. Okay, so as you can see, we have this piece nicely glued in now. So the transition from the wing to the fuselage will be seamless right here. I do need to let this dry a little bit. I got the medium CA holding that all together. Once that dries, then we'll be able to trim it up and sand it. And then I'll use some micro balloons filler right along here to make that nice smooth transition between the wing and the belly pan here. So we're gonna go ahead and do the other one off camera, and we'll be back. Okay guys, so before I get started on the Giles, I wanted to talk about one more project that we're gonna be working on almost in conjunction with the Giles build. So going back 20 years ago, I finally got into quarter scale aircraft. My first aircraft that I bought was a Hangar 9 Matt Chapman Cap 232. It's a 120 size ARF, and they have stopped manufacturing this aircraft. They don't have this aircraft any longer. It was a great flying airplane. It was designed by Dave Patrick. And those of you in the field, in the model aviation industry, you know who Dave Patrick is. He built, or he designed a couple of airplanes, an Ultimate Bipe that I almost bought, and a couple other planes. But great designer. And Hangar 9 partnered up with Matt Chapman, and they were allowed to use his color scheme. So I bought this airplane, and I had what was called an MDS 1.48 nitro engine on it. Engine had tons of issues, to say the least. Took a long time to break in, basically, is really what it boiled down to. But the plane itself was great, and had a couple mishaps with it, but my father and I, we took some time and we rebuilt the plane once, and then had a mid-air collision with it with a trainer, and broke the plane in half. So that was the end of that airplane. But I recently was looking around on flyinggiants.com on the forums for the classifieds, and I happened to come across a gentleman that had this airplane brand new in the box. I couldn't believe it. Thought that was great. I thought to myself, man, I need to have that airplane. He wasn't asking an outrageous amount, but shipping for this airplane was a little bit high. So it is what it is. But I got the airplane finally, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick unboxing of this airplane with you guys and show you all the parts and kind of see the status of the airplane and see what we're going to need to do to this airplane to get this in the air, flying. And yeah, so let's go ahead and crack open the box here. So I've already gone through the box just to make sure everything looked good inside. And amazingly, considering the plane is fairly old, it's not in terrible shape. I mean, yeah, you say it's brand new in the box, but it was brand new in the box quite some time ago. So let's wrestle with this here.
Do this on the ground easier. There we go, it's coming.
Ha-ha! All right, set that off to the side there. Okay, so like I said, everything was still in its wrapping, and it seemed to be in really great shape. We're going to put the servo. I put the servos in there that I'm going to be using. These are the Corona servos I was mentioning. They'll be perfectly fine for this. And I already had a spinner that would be perfect for this airplane as well. Set that off to the side. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start pulling some things out of here. We have the decal sheet. It's a nice decal sheet. It's in good shape still, and we'll may use some of them on the airplane. Okay, set that off to the side. So, first thing you're greeted with is the control surfaces. Now, all of these I have, like I said, I pulled some of these out because I wanted to see if I could get the cover and the stick. Because what I found is it has been sitting for quite some time, and I tried to get some of the wrinkles out of it. I tried to get some of it to stick back down again. Unfortunately, the covering is in pretty rough shape. All the corners are peeling up. The color is coming apart from the clear on the top of it. And my opinion is just, it's not worth trying to save it, because I'll end up having to take it all apart and recover it anyway down the road. So I determined I'm just going to go ahead and recover it before I build it. Makes things a lot easier. But needless to say, it's not in terrible shape, guys. The wood structure is perfectly fine. Like I said, we have all the control surfaces are here. They're already pre-hinged, which is going to be making my job a lot easier, because later when I recover it, all I'm going to have to do is get the covering on it and then just move forward with the controls, or with the building as normal. So pretty straightforward at that point. There's not a whole lot I'm going to need to do to it. But it's going to be nice having it recovered in my own kind of scheme. I'm going to use the scheme that's very similar to what this is. Yeah, see these, the hinges don't want to go back in evenly right now because of the, but that's okay. So, all right, so, but like I said, you know, everything is pretty much built on here. It looks really nice. We're going to pull the covering off, and what we're going to do is anywhere where the teal is, I'm going to do red, and then blue, and then the white is still going to be in the right spot. So it's going to be red, white, and blue, but in a similar color scheme. So what I'm going to end up doing is tracing these lines with some paper, so I can transfer those patterns onto new covering. The bottom side, where currently it's all white, we're going to go back and we're going to recover all of this white with, I believe I'm going to go with a blue and white checkerboard. And that'll look really nice and make it very easy to see top from bottom. So we'll set that off to the side. The rudder was actually, the rudder and the vertical stab was actually in the best of shape on this. Covering wise. So we're still going to recover this. The rudder is going to end up being the blue and white checkers, and the stab is going to be red. Oh no, I'm sorry. The stab is still going to be blue, but it's going to then have blue and white checkers on this. So that'll look really nice with the tail being in the checkerboard. We'll set that off to the side. We'll get all this back in the box before we start working on the Giles. And then we have the wings. It's a, I believe, 73-inch wingspan, about the same size as the Giles. But as you can see, there is some major differences between the two different wings. The wing is actually tapered on the front and the back. But there is definitely a lot of, you hear, a lot of covering peeling up. And I know sometimes you can heat it up and get it to stick again, but like I said, this airplane has probably been sitting around for quite some time. So just to avoid having to go back and recover it again later, we're just going to go ahead and peel all the covering off of it and redo it. Now, like I said, we will be making a template of the color scheme here, because it's going to be red, white, blue, white, red, white, blue, and then white, okay? So we're just going to use the same scheme, but we're going to do it in red, white, and blue. So, but structurally, we're sound. We're good. So it's just going to be a matter of recovering the airplane and making it look nice. And then we have the second wing here. Same scenario with that one, covering, starting to peel off, and so on. Yeah, it's looking just fine, though. Structurally, everything is good. Has a fiberglass cowl. It's already pre-painted. However, the white is not really match We'll have to see if we can use it. I might be able to utilize this because the top of the fuselage is still going to be the blue line. So I might still be able to utilize this as it is without having to repaint. But we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have to see how it all works out. See if the white, how well the white matches and the blue matches the blue that I got. So we'll see how that all works. But cowl is in great shape. Beautiful cowl. And it's got the nice big cheeks. And we'll set that off to the side there. Now for the interesting part. This is the beauty right here. We got white cowl or white fiberglass wheel pants. Look like to be in great shape still, so won't have to do much to those. If I do repaint the cowl, I might just do a quick sand and paint on these. We'll see how that works, but these are gel coated, so I may not bother with them. Box of goodies here. We got the control rods, some extra covering, wooden dowels, and so on. All look good there. Nothing really fancy, nothing out of the norm there. We have the aluminum landing gear. It's good shape. If I remember correctly, that landing gear was a bit weak. So I'll be on the lookout for a replacement landing gear that looks very similar to it. This is the mounting hardware for the cowl. Comes with little rubber pieces to go in where the drill goes, where the screw goes. I'm sorry, the mounting screws, and then the blind nuts to mount those. So you don't want to lose that. Canopy. I've already messed with it a little bit, so I already cut it out of the main part. But yeah, cowl is in great, or the canopy is in great shape. No issues there. Nice and clear. It's a little dirty, but we'll clean that up. But yeah, it's just dust. But the canopy is a beautiful canopy. Looking really nice there. We'll set that there. All right. And if I remember right, this kit came with some really nice hardware. I was actually really surprised. It comes with Sullivan, all Sullivan hardware. And any of you that have been in the industry building model airplanes for some time will know Sullivan. So it comes with Sullivan clevises, metal clevises, the Sullivan metal control horns, which are pretty decent. We'll just have to make sure that none of the metal to metal. Now with 2.4, the metal to metal is not really as much of an issue, but you still want to try to limit it if you can. Sullivan fuel tank. I will have to buy the stopper for it to convert this to a gas, because we will be running a gas engine on here. I might also replace the tail wheel, because the tail wheel assembly on this mounts directly to the rudder. I'm not a huge fan of that. That's a lot of pressure on your servo, and I want to try to avoid that if I can, so I might look at replacing that with something else. But other than that, great hardware packet. Really decent products there inside that box. And then we have the fuselage here. And as you can see, it's a decent sized airplane. It's a quarter scale. And the same issues that are with the other parts are with this part as well. Covering is peeling a little bit in some spots. I mean, they cut the seams right against the edges, which is really surprising. However, you know, we'll have to take a look at it. I'm going to go through all of the glue joints on this as well. I want to make sure everything is good. I'm going to fuel proof the inside. I'm not sure the fuel tank is going to go up in the front here. On gas airplanes, I tend to like to keep the fuel tanks a little bit further back towards the center of gravity, because you don't need the fuel tank up that close. So we'll probably take a look at that, see how we might be able to relocate the fuel tank a little bit further back. But first things first, we're going to be going through all the glue joints, and once we get all the covering off of it, and we'll get her cleaned up and recovered. And the engine that I'm looking at to put on the front of this baby is, or the engine I'm looking at to put on the front of this aircraft is going to be the Valley View RC, so VVRC, 30cc twin cylinder. It is the same weight, full up weight of that engine is the same as a Moki 1.8, I believe. So People have flown this airplane with a Moki 1.8, and they've also put big Satos on the front of this plane. So, and I've also seen 50 cc's on the front of it. But I believe that 30 cc twin cylinder will fit nicely within that cowl. I've already done measurements. I've also gotten the standoffs that I need to get the engine further forward. And that's part of the reason I'm going to be going through the airframe and re-gluing all the joints to make sure everything is nice and tight in there. And nothing's going to break. I'm also going to be reinforcing the firewall bulkhead here to support the engine a little bit better. They do have a quarter inch, it looks like quarter-inch plywood firewall here, but I think I'm going to add a little bit more thickness to that. So I'm going to laminate a piece of wood on another piece of plywood on the front of this. And I'm going to go opposite of the grain that it is. So right now it has, on the outside edges, has got the grain going up and down. This is only a 3-ply piece of plywood. So I'm going to add a plywood piece that cut exactly to the same shape as this. We're going to laminate that on, and then we're going to fiberglass it over the front. That way we can put the spacers on there and get that engine mounted nicely on there. So we'll take a look at how we can do that and make sure that the spacers will still fit with the cowl, because the cowl has to go all the way back here, guys. If anybody remembers, the cowl on this covers up the area where the fuel tank is. But like I said, this is going to be the ignition module and possibly batteries up here in the front. And I will be using those lithium-ion battery packs again for this as well. Now, I might not have to reinforce this, but we're going to take a look and see how strong this really is. But I think I would feel a lot more comfortable if I had that reinforced. They do have a lot of hardwood. These aren't balsa. These are hardwood triangle stock everywhere on the front of this firewall, or on the back of this firewall. So it might not need to add too much to it, but we'll take a look and see. But yeah, this covering the color is all separated from the clear on here, and heating it up is not going to help much. So we'll redo this covering on here and make it look nice. I believe it's still going to end up being the blue. And then my thought was doing a red stripe on the side of the fuselage, and then leaving it all white on the bottom. So we'll take a look and see how all that'll come out. But yeah, we're looking forward to getting this plane in the air too. So I'll have those two 30 cc airplanes in the air fairly quickly. This is just going to be a lot of covering. And I might do the covering on this at the same time as doing the Giles. That way I can do all the covering at once and have them both ready to go roughly about the same time. So we'll install all the equipment and stuff. So stay tuned, guys, for the Giles. We're going to go ahead and start moving on on the Giles section. We're going to get this all put away, put it somewhere else. And then we'll go ahead and getting the wing ready to be mounted to the plane. That way we can make sure that all the other control surfaces, the tail feathers, all match up with it, and we'll be able to move on from there. So stay tuned, guys. We'll work on the aileron, and then we'll get that wing mounted.